Hello everyone, this is Jenna David. Thank you for tuning in. So today I would like to talk about my research proposal for research methods for public policy here at UMass Dartmouth. So my topic is the Philadelphia Land Care Program, and I'm looking to better understand why the outcomes of the program have varied across several neighborhoods. So my specific research question is, why has the Philadelphia Land Care Program produced varying economic, environmental, and social impacts across the city? In terms of economics, I'm looking at property values. The environmental aspects are stormwater runoff and air pollution. And then in terms of the social, I'm looking just at crime and the specific crimes of assault, narcotic sales and possession, and burglaries. So since the Philadelphia Land Care Program is my topic, and really the whole proposal revolves around it, I thought I would take a little bit of time just to give some background information on it. So the Philadelphia Land Care Program is the first and largest greening program in the U.S. It's basically a partnership among the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society, the City of Philadelphia, and other local organizations. The Philadelphia Land Care Program grew from the Philadelphia Green Program that was established back in 1974, also by the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. Moving on to 1998, the Philadelphia Green Program expanded to incorporate a new vacant lot greening program, and this is when the name change occurred. So just for reference, greening is the intentional planting and maintenance of vegetation. One neat fact is between 1999 and 2008, the Philadelphia Land Care Program greened a total of 4,442 vacant lots. Today, in 2013, that number is closer to 8,000. So one of the questions that comes up frequently with the Philadelphia Land Care Program is simply, how does it work? So basically, the Philadelphia Horticultural Society partners up with, the community members and city officials to select vacant lots that are kind of most concerned, and they come out of this master database that's held by the city. So once the lots are selected, there is a standard greening procedure, and it involves removing all debris and weedy vegetation, grading, adding compost, topsoil, planting trees, sowing grass seed, and installing a wood post and rail fence around the perimeter of the designated vacant lots. So in terms of maintenance, the Philadelphia Horticultural Society employs about 100 people, and they also recruit volunteers to maintain the treated vacant lots year-round. As you can see in this picture, there's before and after images of one of the lots that were treated under the Philadelphia Land Care Program. As you can probably tell, it's quite a drastic difference. So when talking about vacant lots in either everyday conversation or specifically in public policy, the question comes up of why do they matter? So before I address that question, I just want to give a quick definition of what a vacant lot is. It is a neglected parcel of property that has buildings on it. Very simple, given by the EPA. So going back to why do vacant lots matter? Vacant lots can have a number of substantial impacts on communities. One of the first ones is the creation of public nuisances. So that could be, trash, the grass is too tall sort of thing. And basically, vacant lots really burden municipal departments, and it could be responding to public nuisances or possibly some criminal activity that's occurring on the vacant lot. As mentioned before, it increases criminal activity, and there is a direct connection here to the broken window theory. The broken window theory goes something like this. If the first broken window in a building is not repaired, then people who like breaking windows will assume nobody cares. And from there, there's usually a downward spiral within that neighborhood. So in addition, vacant lots also decrease the economic value of nearby properties, and thus that reduces the town and city tax base. And clearly, in terms of funding, that's an issue. So one of the last impacts I'd like to touch upon is social fragmentation. And with vacant lots, people often will avoid them, and it kind of creates sort of, these tensions or kind of keep to myself mentalities in a neighborhood, which is not helpful in terms of, building the community. So as someone that's listening to this presentation, you might wonder how I, reached this specific question and topic. So my initial interest about grading lots is kind of more personal and professional, and I'm looking to come up with some potential solutions for vacant lots in my home city. So that's kind of really where my interest got sparked. So as I was kind of going through the literature, the Philadelphia Land Cam program, came up, more than once. It's usually used as a model. So once I was kind of sifting through that specific research, I started to notice that although a lot has been done in terms of, the effects, explaining the effects, there's a shortfall. So the two main studies that I looked at, the first one is the economic, environmental, and social justice impacts of greening vacant lots, and that's by Megan Heckert. The second study is a difference in differences analysis of health, safety, and greening vacant urban space by Brenas and several other authors. Now, since my research is really just kind of like a step on those two other one's actually a dissertation and study, it's important to spend a little bit of time just to kind of briefly go over them. So the first study or dissertation I looked at is the economic, environmental, and social justice impacts of greening vacant lots. The goals of the study were to answer a set of specific questions on the topic of economic, environmental, and social justice impacts of the Philadelphia Land Care program. The questions Heckert came up herself, and she did something similar to what I just did. Beforehand, she had gone through the previous literature and found her own gaps and continued on with the work. The second goal is to analyze the sustainability of the impacts, something that really hasn't been done before. So the methodology is quantitative spatial analysis, so lots of modeling. Differences in differences analysis, and she also selected a sample control of the vacant lots. So her overall findings were that the Philadelphia Land Care program shows an increasing surrounding property values, improves environmental conditions, and increases the equity and access to green space in Philadelphia. However, and this is really important, Heckert notes that the benefits are not uniform and differ for neighborhoods across the city. So this is kind of my launching point for my research. So here we have two different maps, and they are of the city of Philadelphia. The one on the left is an official one that breaks down the neighborhoods. And to the right, we have a modified version that was created by Heckert for data analysis and collection purposes. It just simplifies it. So the second study I looked at is a difference in differences analysis of health, safety, and greening vacant urban space. So the main goal of the study was to analyze the health and safety outcomes of the Philadelphia Land Care program. So for methodology, first was to compare before and after outcome differences among treated lots and lots that were eligible for the Philadelphia Land Care program but did not receive the actual treatment, and that's part of the differences and indifferences analysis. So two control groups were selected for this research piece, and random effects regression was also utilized. So here are the overall findings of the study. There were consistent reductions in gun assaults in all sections of the city, consistent reductions in vandalization in one section of the city, and there were large inconsistencies in the results for the crimes of assault, narcotic sales and possession, burglaries, and theft all across all the neighborhoods. And the last piece found that there was really no major changes in health outcomes. Brenas mentioned, in the future conducting, a larger experiment to see if there really is an impact. So as I showed you before with the Heckert maps, this is actually the one that Brenas created, and it's even more whittled down than hers. And as you can see, there are 4 districts that he broke them into, and with the density, it kind of shows, where the lots are located and where there are more. So this chart just kind of shows the selection that Brenas went through to create the 2 different control groups for the vacant lots. So after kind of going through all the literature and kind of finding the gaps, I came up with some specific questions. The first one in the category of economics is, why didn't greening vacant lots in South Philadelphia have a significant effect on its property values? The second one in the environmental category is, after taking size of a lot into consideration, why would stormwater runoff and air pollution reduction be the most significant in eastern and western North Philadelphia and West Philadelphia? Then with the social question, which is really on crime, why did assaults, narcotic sales and possession, and burglaries significantly increase in South Philadelphia but decrease significantly in North Philadelphia? And all this is over the time span from 1999 to 2008. So with the questions, came up with some working theories. So for the economic question of why, the land or property values in South Philadelphia, stayed stagnant, my running theory is that higher percentages of distressed properties and higher rates of violent and drug-related crime in South Philadelphia compared to the other 7 neighborhoods. For the environmental question of, why are there certain neighborhoods that will benefit more than the others from, the PLC lots, the stormwater runoff, and the air pollution, the theory is the same, and it all comes down to trees, and specifically the quantity, the species, and the age of trees. So for the social or criminal aspect, for assaults, there are it's like a 2-part theory. I'm thinking the greater economic losses in South Philadelphia coupled with greater usage of the lots is basically kind of causing the crime levels in South Philadelphia, to increase. And when I talk about greater usage of lots, I'm talking about kind of like open space and how people tend to gather. And, some of the interactions in these new spaces may not be positive and could be violent. So then with the narcotic sales and possession burglaries piece, I'm just going kind of with the standard greater economic losses in that region compared to North Philadelphia. So now that I've talked about the different theories and the specific questions, it's time to talk about kind of, the measurement and the definitions piece. So for economics, since we're looking at property value, it can be defined as the value of a piece of property, including both the value of the land itself as well as any improvements that have been made. Since I'm looking at kind of property distress levels, I need to obtain housing stock conditions data, and I'm looking to grab it for all 7 modified neighborhoods from the period of 1999 to 2008. My hope is to create kind of sort of a scale. So if the data is unavailable, and to my knowledge it is available, but in the case it wasn't, what I would do is I would be selecting 10 lots, and with those 10 lots I would be doing kind of block by block, individual observations on the property. I would use GIS software to kind of locate the properties that are within 500 feet of the lot. And the specific survey tool that I would use comes right from NeighborWorks. So for violent crime, the definition, it's going to be number of assault arrests per square mile. And, to define assault, I will refer to the Philadelphia Police Department. And with drug-related crime, it's going to be number of narcotic sales and possession arrests per square mile, also looking to the Philadelphia Police Department for a definition. And the statistics are available from the time period of 1999 to 2008, and they were utilized in Bernass's research piece. So they are available. If not through him, the data should be available through the Philadelphia Police Department. So in terms of the environmental portion, the question is about stormwater runoff and air pollution. So for stormwater runoff, the definition is the precipitation from rain or snowmelt that flows over the ground. In terms of air pollution, I'm specifically looking at carbon dioxide emissions. So kind of to test this, I'm looking to select 10 Philadelphia Land Care Program lots in each of the 7 neighborhoods, and these will be chosen at random. So if I do have to pull samples for the housing stock, I would use the same sample here. So the data I'm looking to gather is on the specific number of trees that were planted, the species of the trees, and when these lots were greened. And this information will be requested from the Philadelphia Horticultural Society. If it is unavailable, which I believe it is available, then I would have to collect the data on site. So in terms of the social crime in particular, so I'm looking at neighborhood economic well-being, and I'm measuring it in terms of median household income and unemployment levels. That information can be found through the U.S. Census Bureau. So with the usage of the lots, I'm looking to do direct observation. And since Bernas kind of drew the boundaries differently than Heckert, I would kind of have to throw out the other samples and kind of draw a new one for this piece. So since the largest differences in results were consistently seen between the South and North Philadelphia neighborhoods in respect to crime, the new random sample will contain 15 Philadelphia land care lots from each neighborhood for a total of 30 lots. So with the direct observation, I'm looking to do kind of in-person, on-site, and additionally kind of less or direct through camera. So between 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., I would be sitting there kind of either voice recording or writing notes, and then a camera would basically capture the people and the interactions from 5 p.m. to 7 a.m. And this would be conducted on all 30 of the selected lots. So making sense of the data, probably one of the most challenging pieces. So for the economic section, I'm looking to compare housing stock data between all 7 neighborhoods. Create sort of a distress scale. And when I talk about distress scale, from the literature, there seems to be a point which has not yet been defined of where if there's too much blight, too many vacant spaces, the remedying of the lots has not changed the value of the surrounding properties, and that was the case with the South Philadelphia lot. I'm also looking kind of to examine the broken window theory in context of the data. Is the crime the causal factor? And it kind of looks like, with the broken windows theory, it's, the crime kind of follows after the blight. So for the environmental piece, I'm looking to use the tree data that's collected and basically calculate carbon dioxide sequestration and and stormwater runoff absorption totals. So the formulas for each of these are provided by the U.S. Forest Service. So once I have the calculations for the individual lots, the plan would be to kind of average them out. And once you have those statistics, I can compare them, to the expected outcomes. Heckert said that she thinks that there are specific neighborhoods that will benefit more in terms of the environment with the PLC lot program. So for the social piece, looking to compare the economic and crime statistics of North and South Philadelphia together to see if there's a correlation between crime rates and community economic well-being. This really ties in, kind of to the first question. So challenges and limitations. So the first major one is that I'm heavily relying on the work of others, and in doing this, I kind of sat through and had to look at the methodology for the reports I was looking at and, kind of decide, does this make sense? Does this look right, sort of thing. So anytime you're relying on somebody else, it kind of adds the possibility that there's more errors. So something kind of limited to the actual study itself is the vacant lots were not chosen at random. They are, kind of selected, sort of kind of an arbitrary process. So that kind of creates sort of an issue of bias. In terms of housing stock, the information that would be gathered from doing the observations would be gathered in 2013, and it may not reflect the data from 2008. So if that was to be the case, what I would have to do is kind of look at, what are the new housing project developments, have there been demolitions, or other major improvements in the community between the 2008 and 2013. And kind of the same could be said about the, direct observation and usage piece. So the really most challenging aspect, I would say, is that there are so many different variables in play, and a lot of them may be connected, and trying to kind of distinguish, what, the connection is it's not easy. So we come down to the last question of so what? So, why should somebody care? So as cities, like I pointed out, Philadelphia, across the city continue to shrink and economically decline, the vacant lot program, or problem, excuse me, will only intensify if it's not addressed. Although most people would agree that untreated lots are not good for the community, the question of what to do still remains. As you've seen, Philadelphia's response is clean it and green it, which has worked, for the most part, pretty well. So even though, like I mentioned, the overall results were positive from both of these studies, the results still show that they're not uniform. And with the uniformity, that gives some kind of room for better policy making. And in respect, to the grading lots in South Philadelphia, the studies are kind of finding that, the impacts, which some are negative, are notable. And with that, you kind of have to wonder, is it worth pursuing? So this is when you kind of reach value questions and have to discuss the trade-offs. Could the money be invested in the neighborhood differently? And, in terms of kind of the trees, is there a certain quantity that is, best, will get the most results? And, is there some other maintenance strategies that could kind of produce greater results? These are all things that this study would help produce. So here is the bibliography, and I thank you for your time today.